What up, YouTube? It's Kurt here. And so, today we're going to take a look at this Exodia deck. So I've been playing around with Exodia a lot lately, and been trying to make as many improvements to the deck as I could. So there's a lot online that I see. There's a couple like FTK ones, but I wanted to find the most like consistent one that could actually compete with at least a few of the decks. So this can sometimes beat some tournament decks. It could probably never really place in any like major tournament. But I have like really played around a lot with this and experimented with what would kind of go through the entire deck the fastest. All right, so what I came up with, I did some research and looked at some card tips, things like that, and I discovered that, yeah, I just played around with this, and this is what I built. So, some modifications I made. If you look at my other video, you can see a lot of these cards are the same, but I'll go ahead and just go over what I decided to add. So, obviously, we have the combo of doing Necroface, reviving with Allure of Darkness, because it's just essential to have that extra like drawing capacity. That extra drawing capacity with Allure of Darkness just really helps out, because there's not that many great draw cards out there. So here's what we did. We reduced Obliterate to 2. Because we're not taking advantage of Incarnates as much. And then let's see, all the way down here, we added Appropriate. All right, so Appropriate, this is probably the #1 card you want to have in your hand. It's really good if you have this card in your hand in the turn 1. And yeah, so obviously when you first activate this card, it will not do the draw 2 cards when you first activate it, but after you activate it, it can make it pretty much lets you draw into your deck. And with the cards that you draw, a lot of times this pretty much lets you basically infinite draw until you get all the cards you need. All right, so the idea is you get this activated, and you get it activated either by the opponent playing a card, or you can activate it off of Dark Bribe, and you can activate it off of Hand Destruction. Now, be careful when you play Hand Destruction, because you don't want to activate Hand Destruction during a draw phase. You can set it face down and activate it as a trap, or you can activate it your turn. It does not work if you do it during your draw phase. That's probably a glitch they need to fix, but do not activate it during your draw phase. But yeah, and you can also activate it with Cup of Ace. You do need a Tails to activate it with Cup of Ace, but it does, once you have it up, it does mitigate the negative effects of Cup of Ace, and that's what's really nice. It helps to mitigate those negative effects. So obviously, we have Dark World Dealings. So once this is activated, then it helps out with Dark World Dealings, Hand Destruction, Cup of Ace, and also we have Destiny Hero Defender. So yeah, going through our other additions, obviously we added Cup of Ace. It works well with the Appropriate. We have Dark Bribe. Well, makes the opponent draw 1 card, and hopefully then you get to draw 2 cards. And then Destiny Hero, great Defender. Obviously, Defender's in the name. It does a really good job of that. Not that many monsters go above 2,700 attack. So it's just really good in tandem with this deck. So, a lot of times what you see happening is that, we might banish a couple Exodia pieces, but we end up getting them back. Or what ends up happening is we have to discard a couple Exodia pieces, but we go through our entire deck, and then we get to our Dark World factories. So, my win percentage has just been way higher with this deck. And again, it still qualifies as a rogue deck, but it's a much better rogue deck than a lot of others that you see. So, with that said, let's get into our replays here. So I'll do 3 replays for you. Yeah. Load. Alright, so, boom, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom. And we'll load this replay. Swap sides. So here I want second. Ideally, you probably want to go first. Again, we have One Day of Peace is a great card to get in the first turn. I get Appropriate that I need on the first turn. And again, you do have to be careful when you're playing. You do have to do a little bit of math. Keep track of how many Exodia pieces you have in your graveyard. Obliterate does come in handy a lot. Again, the downside of any Exodia deck is having too many Exodia pieces in your opening hand. There's not many cards that help mitigate that, and that's just ultimately what makes Exodia decks so bad, is that they could be clogged up with cards pretty easily no matter what the current meta has to offer. Alright, so Twin Twister, this is a nice counter to Twin Twisters. Another Dark Bribe here. We have 2, and we can see the cards just keep on coming. Again, Appropriate can be really easily countered, but sometimes you might want to lay down a spell, so maybe they aren't as keen to destroying it, maybe trying to guess at other cards to deactivate. So again, using Hand Destruction, you can see it's working very well for us. It's almost like infinite cards at this point. Sometimes once you get Appropriate up, you pretty much won the game. And boom, 6 turns, not bad. Again, 6 turns gets destroyed by like Magician decks, or it gets destroyed by Trickstar decks. Doesn't everyone hate Trickstar? I wish they would just ban Trickstar for the sake of creativity. But anyway, so that's yes, it loses to meta decks most of the time, but it can pull off a win here and there against some of those meta decks. Probably not Magician decks, but other meta decks. All right. We'll do another swap here. Alright, so here, Pot of Desires works decently just because we have Necroface. Dark World works pretty well. You can see there I banished 11 cards. Not that big of a deal. Let's see, what kind of... this guy is a... Knight deck, yeah, not all that familiar, but it doesn't look to be that meta. But again, this deck does tend to crush Blue Eyes. I do know that so far. Blue Eyes, obviously, it's not like that great of a deck, but it's just one deck this deck has a good matchup against. So here I'd get up 2 Appropriates. Boom. And I think I'm just waiting on that last Exodia piece. Boom. Yeah, shuffle everything back in. Cup of Ace. Just waiting on that last piece. Boom. There's the victory. Alright, one more for you guys. Replays. Alright, so I have probably too many saved up here, but load this replay. Again, I don't know if I probably had Appropriate first turn in all these replays, but whatever. So you can see there, it's kind of negligible. If I activate Appropriate, I mean, it's kind of negligible if I discard some pieces. We can get all those back with Dark Factory. But 1 Day of Peace, excellent, excellent card. And then was able to set a lot of traps, double greeds. And again, this deck does lose a lot. I don't just like, not just showing victories to hype it up, but it still ends up being a pretty good deck. Here, it's just 2 Appropriates. It's like no chance at this point. Dark Factory. So sometimes you get a very easy victory. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Hopefully this deck is fun. Go try it out. And so, subscribe if you like these videos. Peace.